So I'd like to welcome you back to OB After Hours. This is part 2 with myself, Owen Boyle, and John McKeown. John is a certified Wim Hof instructor. He's an absolute legend. We get on very well. We compare each other to Laurel and Hardy, and in this episode we're going to be discussing everything from CBD to rivers to sleeping and everything in between. So enjoy the podcast. So I have an interesting thought. I was thinking of notes before this podcast, as I suppose people should do before they start a podcast. So I was thinking, what's the biggest lesson I've learned from the Wim Hof method, and what would I like John to give his thoughts on? And my number one thing is, I've realised that people talk about religion and politics and all this kind of stuff, and it's media and it's everything. And it's just the world. I personally think now our brains aren't developed to be fed with this much information so quickly. So what I think is that if you can connect to your breath is realistically the only thing in life you have control over. That's the way I feel. I feel that in life everything can be taken away from you in moments. The breath is the last thing that can be taken away, and it's the first thing you get.
Yes, the ancient yogis said you come into this world with a finite number of breaths. If you want to live a short life, breathe quickly and use them up. If you want to live a long life, breathe slowly. And as you said, it's the first thing you come into the world with, and it's the last thing you leave the world with. Yeah. And so it's incredible. It's all about the breath. I used to work for a company called Panasonic, Japanese company, and I went to Japan for 3 months. Yeah. And back then we were there was 12 of us sent over, and we would watch the Japanese before they start work. They would do this exercise routine. Okay. And at 11 o'clock, a bong would go, and they'd do a few more exercises.
No way.
And this was their normal routine, and it was a simple stretching routine and controlled breathing. But it was completely strange to us, and we were, I don't mean wrongly, so we were laughing. We were laughing at them.
Yeah, no.
But then you see them doing this at night as well, and then we just thought this was strange. But the Japanese have one of the longest lifespans in the world. So I don't know whether I've told you this before, but I'm a Qigong instructor.
I wasn't aware of that. That's interesting. That's a new tab open there, folks.
Just over the last year, I started practicing Qigong. My sister's an acupuncturist in the UK, and she's told me about this thing called Qigong. I'd heard of it, but didn't know. You might have heard of Tai Chi.
Yeah, I've heard of Tai Chi.
Tai Chi is actually a martial art. Qigong was before Tai Chi, and can't even say it now. Qigong is actually is specifically for health. So what it is it's flowing movement, meditation, and breath work. It's nice and slow, nice and relaxed, and you just get into it. It's a physical movement in a meditative state.
So it's different than the Wim Hof?
Oh, completely different. Okay. Completely different.
That's interesting.
And so I would have started this just over a year ago, and became an instructor about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
And what kind of benefits would the Wim Hof method, obviously inflammation, see you later, there's a lot of great benefits to the Wim Hof method. Yeah. What was it called?
Qigong. So it's Chinese. So the Chinese word for Qi is life force, life energy.
Okay.
And it's all around us and all within
us.
Qi.
Oh, yeah.
Qi, as in Qi. Yeah. So Qi is life force, life energy. Okay. And Gong it means cultivation. So you're cultivating this life force, life energy from externally around us and internally. And so it flows through the meridians. So if you get acupuncture, they stick needles in different meridians. So doing this technique, you actually exercising these meridians and these internal organs and stuff like that. So it's the benefits. Well, it's ancient. It's based on there's what there is routines of usually 5 to 7 movements, and there's one that's called the 5 animals, and it's based on how animals move, and that's that one. And there's another one, Badwad Jin. I can't speak Chinese, but that was my best.
That was good. That was good, John. That was good.
And that's based on a routine of 8 exercises. and it's amazing how you feel relaxed. So if you think you've had a stressful day, which a lot of people do, when you come home, a lot of people just sit in front of the television, which is wrong. What you can do is slow movements and breath work to calm yourself down. Use up all that cortisol that's flowing through the body, and do these simple techniques to calm the body down. Instead of, say, going into the Wim Hof method where you hyperventilate. Wim Hof has a purpose in certain places, and so has Qigong. I always tell people, if you're into sport and you want an hour before the activity, do the mouth breathing. Pump yourself up full of adrenaline, but you're in a relaxed state an hour before your activity. If you want to calm yourself down, you can do the nasal breathing, or you can do Qigong.
Okay.
And just calm yourself. Nice flowing movements.
And I suppose that's where it's important, where we'll come back to the point of, it's not the Wim Hof method is not a cure-all. It's simply a tool in your arsenal that you can use. I wouldn't even say a tool. It's something that we should already do, something spiritual, something within us all that brings us back to ourselves. And any methods, the more methods you have, the better, because
you can use them at different times. It's
because when I started, I used to be, growing up, like I'm 23 now, but when I was 16, 17, 18, I was very, if I clinged on to it, I thought it would be one directional. It would be, I have to do that, only that, no way in hell. When I started the Wim Hof, I was almost like that as well. I was like, I'm not doing anything else. People were saying mindfulness. I was like, nah. After about 2 months, I was like, I love it so much, but I feel like I'm dedicating everything to this. So I opened my mind. Something opened my mind. I think I was in the shower one day and it was extra cold, and I was like, oh my God, something. So I love this, but there's something else I need. So then that's where I started doing more mindfulness, and then you can actually incorporate the mindfulness into the breathing exercise, the Wim Hof. You can change it, you can experiment. Like sometimes I might do 20 breaths, only hold my breath for a minute, let's say, whereas normally it would be 2 or 3 minutes, and I'm seeing how my body feels. I'm experimenting, because that's what your body's there for.
But actually, that's the beauty of the Wim Hof method. If you ask Wim, there's no rules. It's all about feeling.
Yeah.
You go with how you feel. So if you're not feeling good, there's no force. You're not pushing the body beyond how you feel that day. I think I told you this story before. I've got a bath outside in the garden, and there's about 2 inches of ice on top of it in the winter. I got a hatchet to smash up the ice, and I got in. I stayed in for, I don't time myself, to be honest, but it was well over 2 minutes, and just really, really enjoyed it. The following week, I went up to Ravensdale. There's a mountain river, which would not have been anywhere near as cold. And I got in, and I felt it was freezing.
And was that because it was flowing? Was that because...
But it was also attitude. I knew the ice bath, that with the 2 inches of frozen ice, was going to be a challenge, and I was ready for the challenge. I thought the river was going to be easy, and I didn't prepare for it properly. And so this is all about mindset and preparation. And so that was a good eye opener.
And that's good that even you, as a qualified Wim Hof instructor for so long, can pick up but pick up.
You're learning all the time.
Yeah, life is not about you're not making mistakes. You're just learning. That's it. Yeah. It's you got to educate yourself, and especially like that, because no one else is teaching it. You're learning from yourself. It's
like I've said, the Wim Hof method is 3 rounds of 2 minutes, but I don't do 3 rounds every morning. Some mornings I do 5 rounds. Other mornings I might only do 1. Yeah. And so it's how you feel, and you've got to vary. You've got to keep it interesting. And
so sometimes one of my routines, because I sell from the hemp plant. It's CBD. It's cannabidiol. It's extracted from the cannabis plant or the hemp plant. Of course, in Europe we sell the hemp variety of it due to the legalities and whatnot. So there's no THC in it. So what it does is we have an endocannabinoid system going through our whole body. And when that's activated, inflammation reduction, you feel relaxed. There's a lot more scientific evidence out there. I'll leave links below. It's an incredible substance. I can't make too many claims about it. I'm not selling it here. I'm just saying what I do. So I wake up some mornings and I'd have a little CBD vape pen there, or I'd have a little CBD oil. If you don't smoke, don't vape. If you don't vape the CBD. Just take it orally through drops, or take it through, let's say, balm on your skin. If you have a pain, one thing I do is I rub CBD balm on my leg, let's say, on my hip, and I do the breathing, or I do the cold shower, and it speeds it up so much. It's incredible. The CBD adds something for me, not all the time, I don't do it every day, but it's a relaxation, my retention times, which don't actually matter, as long as you're feeling what your body wants. I can go 4.5 minutes, 5 minutes, which is incredible for me, and I feel good, I feel relaxed, and I come out of it with no pain, a sense of let's go, let's attack the day, and then for later in the night I sleep better. So you can experiment, you can try different things, natural, herbal. You could drink, if you drink a cup of coffee beforehand, it'll be intense. If you have a cup of green tea beforehand, it'll be a little bit more relaxed. Is there anything different, John, that you do around the same time where you do the Wim Hof method? Is there anything? I remember you mentioned something about in your bed there's a sheet, if I'm not mistaken.
All right, so
this is interesting now, folks. I'd get your popcorn, I'd sit back, and I relax and listen to John.
Okay, well, I'm actually an electronic engineer.
Okay.
And so, but one of the things we discovered, if you've ever heard of earthing or grounding, we are electrical beings, and our bodies are influenced by all the electromagnetic radiation that's around us, and that's increased dramatically in the last 50 years. Some people believe it, or others don't, and I'm not here to convince people. It's just my own research.
Yeah.
That this has an effect on our red blood cells. Our red blood cells will stick together, which stops the flow and stops the distribution of oxygen.
And John will leave there'll be a link below, or there'll be pictures where you can see this.
Yeah. I did my own experiment. I was showing you the pictures where I held a mobile phone for 10 minutes. I went onto YouTube on the mobile phone, and then I got my blood tested with what's called live blood analysis, where they take a prick of your blood and put it under a microscope and magnify it a couple of 100 times, and all my red blood cells were stuck together. So red blood cells flow...
Which is not healthy.
No, it's not healthy at all, because the red blood cells carry the nutrients around the body, and also the hemoglobin is part of the red blood cell, and that carries oxygen throughout the body. And what it does, it goes through your veins and then into smaller capillaries, and a capillary is only one red blood cell thick. So if you've got clumps of these, it can't flow through the capillaries, so whatever's beyond that is not going to get this proper supply of blood.
Okay.
So there's a few ways you can resolve
this. Which leads to a lot of...
Yeah, if your cells aren't getting blood, it's lack of oxygen at cell level, it's lack of nutrients at cell level, which is not good over time. So if you ground yourself, you discharge all this. The earth is full of what's called negative electrons, and they discharge all these cells that are stuck together. And so if you watch, it's on YouTube, it's free, the Earthing movie or Grounding. There's two movies, Earthing movie or Grounding, and it shows the benefits of being connected to the earth.
It makes sense.
We've been designed. We back up hundreds of years. We were walking barefoot on the ground. We were earthed.
Yeah, we were connected
to the earth, and now we're not. We wear rubber soles on our runners and this, that, and the other.
Yeah,
so
we're not connected.
We're insulated from the earth, and we charge up over the day, and this has an effect on us.
And would you feel that?
Would
you feel that less clothes? And this is an intro. This is probably a question you'll see.
You want us to all go around the nip?
Oh, listen, I wouldn't be against it. It'd be tough in winter in Ireland, in fairness. Jesus Christ, on a bike it'd be cold now. But what I'd be thinking would be, with gradual cold exposure, I see there's a YouTuber in the UK. I once again, there'll be a lot of links down below, but he developed a way that he started by just reducing bits of his clothes every few months, and he just goes out in the middle of winter, -2, -3, in shorts and a t-shirt, and no problem at all. And then it comes back to where Wim Hof, John will probably get into more detail about this, but bringing people, this is one of my goals for next year, bringing people up Kilimanjaro in shorts and a t-shirt, and some people without tops, without a top on. And of course, Wim Hof being Wim Hof, he'd wear a hat He could wear no clothes whatsoever, but a hat or maybe two.
Yeah.
But that's Wim. So, have you? I believe you were in Mount. Was it Mount Snesna? Is that what was the name of the Mount?
Mount Śnieżka.
Śnieżka.
If there's any Polish people listening, I hope I pronounced it correctly.
Yeah, and my brother who's in Warsaw right now, apologies.
Okay, so it's on the Polish-Czech border. So we had to do a trek. It was a 5-hour trek. It was -8 Celsius at the bottom and -13 at the top, and we were just wearing our boots and shorts. But we didn't feel the cold. That's the amazing part. Remember, we were instructors, so we had been practicing, and we'd also spent the week jumping in and out of rivers of 4 degrees Celsius. What happens to your body if you do this every single day, which some people do, your body physiology changes. You grow what's called brown fat. We're all born with brown fat, or BAT as it's called. Brown adipose tissue is what it is. Brown fat. We're born with it, but what happens is, we live in a world where it's all central heating on. We get up in the morning, the central heating's on. We get into the car, we turn the heat on. We come into the office, the heat's on, and we're wearing layers and layers of clothes. So we don't need brown fat. Brown fat was there to keep us warm, so it fades away. As you get older, it disappears. But it can grow back. But because Wim's been doing this since he was a nipper, he's got like a 60 or 70% coverage of his body in brown fat. So that's why he can withstand, he's broke records standing in ice for near 2 hours. So that's why he can do that. So, I mean, if you're prepared to do this and walk around in the nip every day, the brown fat would grow back, but I'm not quite prepared to do that.
No, unless there's a societal culture shift in very short space of time, I can't see it happening.
But back to the air thing. So I sleep on a ground sheet. So what it is, it's made out of cotton material with very fine metal filaments in it, and then there's a connector that comes out with a wire and it plugs into the earth socket on the wall.
Okay.
Or you can run it outside, out the window and into the ground. So we sleep grounded. Your body heals at night, and grounding has been shown to reduce inflammation. So I used to be a bad sleeper. It used to take me ages to get to sleep, and since I've had this ground sheet now for 7 years, I'm asleep now in 5 minutes. Get to bed and
what's your process for falling asleep? Like, do you have a process?
I go to bed, I say my prayers, and I'm asleep. And it used to take me ages to get to sleep, and that's again.
Combination.
To be honest, the Wim Hof method has made me far more relaxed. Again, that's the biggest. Thankfully I wasn't sick, but I used to suffer a lot from headaches. Don't get them anymore. And for me, the biggest thing was I feel so much more relaxed. As I said, when we went through what we went through, it wasn't easy, very difficult. I had a permanent headache for 2 years because it
understandably, like life altering situation.
Yeah.
But you came out of it so well, so positively. It's incredible, and you've probably changed your life in a positive way because of it.
Yeah, but we're not freaks about it. You know, we're not extreme in anything. We live a fairly normal life, but you know, we've made changes. As I said, we sleep on a ground sheet. We don't have Wi-Fi in the house. Everything's wired.
That's interesting.
Yeah, wheatgrass. People should look up wheatgrass. So we'd start them on with either a wheatgrass juice. I was growing that for about 2 or 3 years. Loads of benefits. So we start the day like that, and or celery juice, not very nice.
I remember you mentioned B17. I don't mean to keep cutting across, but your points are so fascinating that I must interject.
No problem.
B17, John, tell me more.
B17, okay. Again, from research. Again, I'm not trying to convince anybody anything. Nope. Do your own research.
And any research John is referencing, or any points or facts he mentions, or theories or anything like that, will all be linked below.
Yeah, so there is a video online called A World Without Cancer, B17. So I looked at this, and this guy claims that there's different races in the world where they eat foods which are full of B17, which is a vitamin. Some people just like to say it's not a vitamin, but anyway, that's another story. But the foods that contain the B17 fight cancer. and he explains this in the video. So wheatgrass is full of B17. Wild fruit is full of B17, but we don't eat wild fruit anymore. Like wild blackberries, we don't eat them anymore. The pips of an apple. If you ever eat, next time you eat an apple, bite the pip and see what it tastes like. It's slightly bitter. That's B17.
And it's funny, I've always heard, I said this to John last week, I've always heard that apple, or never eat the seeds of an apple, they're poisonous.
Because there's a bit of cyanide in them.
And what kind of dosage of a seed would you need? Hundreds?
Hundreds.
Well, folks, that's my childhood over now. Thank God.
Or also apricot kernels, apricot nuts.
Oh, the big ones, yeah.
The apricot kernels, they look they look like an almond. They're full of B17.
Okay.
And there's a race of people called the Hunzas. They all live till 120, don't have cancer, and their staple diet is apricot kernels and apricot oil and apricots.
No way.
They live in the northern part of Pakistan.
That's extremely interesting.
So wheatgrass is full of B17.
Ireland is not a big country for apricots.
No, we don't. We have to buy them in. So the simplest way is grow your own wheatgrass or buy. There's a guy, I better give him a shout out, Bannon Organic Wheatgrass in the mighty village of Cullen. he grows, and you can buy trays of wheatgrass off him. At the beginning I was growing it, but it's far easier to buy a tray.
Exactly, and you're supporting local, which is what it's all about. I see Wim Hof as, I guess, one of my friends actually, it was very funny. Shout out to Ivan Fitzpatrick, a man who's actually doing the Wim Hof method himself now. He turned around to me one day and said, "Isn't Wim Hof a bit like a god? And all you instructors and people who are pushing it, aren't you like the disciples or the priests, the people who are really pushing it?" And Ivan was like, "Are you like Wim Hof's going to change the world?" And I was like, "I suppose he already is." Like, I know thousands of people now with the groups I'm in on Facebook and locally, and the impact it's making. So if you have a friend, if you're speaking to a friend, you feel like your friend could do it just a little boost, tell them about the Wim Hof, because it's free. You can do it right now.
They have an app as well.
Yeah.
Most of it's free. Or come join a workshop with me.
Of course, go with John.
But
good, John is doing a retreat in Carlingford,
in the Cooley Mountains between the 2nd and the 4th of July. There's only a few places left, but that's a mixture of Wim Hof and yoga weekend. Yeah.
I'll be there as well, probably with a camera if I remember one.
But the Wim Hof, his wife committed suicide, so I don't think we touched on that.
A topic we haven't gotten into yet, but tragic.
He had 4 young children, and his wife was schizophrenic, and she jumped off a tall building, and he found peace in the cold, because when you're in the cold, it focuses your mind on the cold and how to stay warm and on your breath, and that's where he found peace. And that's what started him off. So it is used in sport, but he's not particularly interested in using it in sport.
No.
But I tell you who's a big supporter of it is Djokovic, the number 1 world tennis player. He's a huge fan of the Wim Hof method, believe it or not. And he's had many. Again, you can look on YouTube the interviews with Wim and Djokovic. He's big time into it. There's some MMA fighters.
I saw the Dutch MMA fighter, and his record improved drastically once he started. That's in the book actually, and we'll, of course, another link. We'll have 400,001 links below, and one of them will be to Wim Hof's book.
That's right.
It's a unbelievable book, it really is. But
actually, just a fella just liked an Instagram post yesterday, and he's the guy who co-authored Becoming the Iceman.
No way.
Yeah,
that's another book.
So, but I think you can listen to that. The free
Audible.
audio.
Yeah,
I think it's free.
Yeah, it is free. Yeah, I was actually, funny enough, looking at that this morning. Free available to download.
So he actually just happened to message me yesterday on Instagram. So I was totally unaware of him, but he co-authored the first book.
Oh, okay, interesting. That's someone who would be an interesting person to have a chat with at some point. Because there's so much research you can do on Wim Hof, because he's so open. He's so like, I don't care who wants to record me or I just want to get it out there, and this is all scientifically backed and whatnot.
I think the easiest thing is, if you want to find out more about it, apart from my website, lovingoxygen.com, is just Google Wim Hof, go onto YouTube, watch some of the videos. There's a fabulous, funny video with Wim Hof and guys called Yes Theory.
Yes Theory, yeah.
That's a great video.
The most positive men in the world.
Yeah. They're adrenaline junkies. Seek discomfort is their slogan. But watch the girl in the video. I think it's about a 1 hour video. Watch the girl. She doesn't panic at all. She'd been practicing the Wim Hof method for a year, and see the difference. But it's a funny video. Or there's other ones.
The Russell Brand podcast. That's one that got me really hooked, because Russell Brand, if Russell Brand happens to be out there listening to this podcast, you're great at what you do, in fairness. You just say what's on your mind. And that interview with Wim Hof, where the bit about depression and the bit where they speak in depth about, of course, Wim Hof's poor wife, it's incredible. It's the way they speak about the depression and how your brain, the chemistry of your brain changes.
Yeah. It's amazing with a few rounds of breathing.
And I think we've grown so used to being able to, I have an issue or I need something, I will go and get it as a consumer.
I pop a pill or something.
Or I don't know, like that kind of attitude. Instead of just being like, oh, geez, is that a bit of a headache coming on? Let me slow my breathing down.
Yeah.
Slow it down, or start breathing in through the nose, now through the mouth, or whatever. Change something and experiment with your body and relax. Or like I experimented the other night by tensing every one of I struggle with sleep myself. The Wim Hof has helped, but I tried with something where I tense while doing the Wim Hof. I tense when I'm in retention after about a minute where I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
I start tensing every part of my body,
and
the feeling of relaxation when you untense. Oh my God. And when you do fully in, my favorite 2 words in the world, and you tense your stomach, you tense your chest, you push it into your head. But you're not forcing it. It's
a gentle squeeze.
It's just a feeling that you fart. There's so many ways you can do this. If you're stuck at home someday and you have nothing to do, just experiment with the breath.
Exactly. Try.
And yoga.
Yeah.
There'll be a big part in your workshop coming up.
But that's with a yoga instructor. We're not yoga teachers. In fact, if you've seen me trying to stretch, you would definitely know I'm not a yoga teacher. but I mean, yoga has its place too. I mean, as we've said before, you find one that suits you, that you get this into a routine, get this into a daily routine. But the basis of them all, even Qigong, is breath work.
Breath is the life force.
It is. Every cell needs oxygen, and if it doesn't, it's going to die. That's as simple as that. That's as simple as that.
Yeah.
So it's all about the breath and how you breathe, and you become aware of how you breathe. Most people, if I said take a deep breath, most people go in the mouth and into the chest.
Yeah. I can't even do that.
No, because once you start thinking about your breathing, you need to breathe in through your nose and into the diaphragm, the belly part of the and the science behind that, why we should do that. So you become aware of how you breathe, and just it's never ending. You start looking. There's a book out called Breath by James Nestor. I've read that, and they've known about breathing techniques centuries ago. Pranayama. There's all sorts of these Tumo breath work. It's central to our health.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we always say to people, again, getting into the ice bath, the body knows what to do if you let it. The problem is your brain's going to get in the way.
Very good.
So keep the brain out of the way. Just relax. Do your breathing, and the body will do what it needs to. And you'll be in there after 10 breaths, and you'll actually enjoy the whole experience, and you'll feel warm.
That's
what it is.
That's a great way of summarising it.
Yeah.
So, like, for people, like, I suppose we're speaking extremely positively about the Wim Hof method. Like I there hasn't been really one negative thing since. So if you were like, I was thinking about earlier, I have a customer who suffers with a heart condition. Yeah. So he was asking me about the method and whatnot. So I said, just consult your doctor. So what, for people out there with certain conditions or with certain, is there anyone who isn't able to do, or what can they do?
So people who are pregnant don't do the breathing. Well, don't do the Wim Hof method basically. Yeah. Pregnancy or epilepsy or heart conditions, because when you get into the cold, you change your blood pressure. Blood pressure goes up. And again, if you've got a heart condition, we don't want blood pressure rising. So they're the three things that we won't take people who've got those sort of conditions.
And those sort of conditions, they could work on less intensive breathing, more just being aware of the breath and mindfulness.
So if you have a heart condition, obviously consult your doctor. Don't be getting into ice baths, but that doesn't mean to say you can't do cold showers. It's all about doing gradual and doing what your body can do, but don't, like you said,
listen to your body.
Don't force it. Ask your doctor. Pregnant women can do the breathing to an extent, but don't do breath holds and stuff like that. But again, consult your doctor. Don't. I don't want to be.
Yeah. None of this is any factual based. I suppose claims that we've made, they're all backed. Every one of them's backed. But in terms of like actually doing it yourself, we would recommend, like, of course, listening to your body if you've no underlying conditions, and if you do, speak to your doctor about it.
Exactly.
Or privately message John about what condition you have, or any concerns or any constraints, because John, since I met John, I met John through myself and my friend Adam were doing Zoom call, because we both found it very beneficial for our mental health. So we were in a Facebook group, and we saw John in the bath, in his bath outside, and we started following him on the group, and then he was doing a workshop on Zoom, of course, with the El Global Pavlova or pandemic. So we John did something different for me when I was, rather than the app, because I use the app, the Wim Hof app, which is fantastic every day. But listening to Wim Hof every single morning, saying the same things, you think about it before it actually happens, and you don't want to think that much when you're doing it. So John does it in such a way, instead of counting down as such, it's more so, or the amount of breaths, it's more so about the length of time and the quality of the breaths. It's not about how fast you can get it in, how fast. It's about the quality of the breath.
Yeah, everybody's different, and I always say, find your own rhythm, find what's comfortable for you. Not too fast, but not too slow either. Find a nice rhythm that you can keep going. Like a wave. Into the belly, up to the chest, fully in, let it go. And that's really what it is. You find, as we said, there's no rules. It's all about you finding you through your breath. And keep it simple. Don't force it. And try it. You'll feel great. And it's like anything, if you feel good, you'll keep it up.
There's one thing that I when I started the Wim Hof method, somehow I came across, I'll try find it. It's like an article about how when you do the Wim Hof method of breathing, because you are activating the primordial areas of your brain, or primordial, your ancestors, parts of your old ancestors, like let's say 5th generation years, 50, 100, 150 years ago, their memory or the life experience they had are somewhat ingrained in that part of your brain. Is that, have you, it's obviously there's no way to really prove
that, but all sorts can happen. I've seen the third eye. If people have heard it, you see the third eye. If it winks at you, you're in trouble. But I've seen the third eye. It's, as I said, it's just different for everyone. Whether I've seen ancestors and stuff, no, I wouldn't say that. But my wife sees faces.
Really?
She sees faces.
I would see faces if I was intense.
Yeah, she would see faces now.
And would she be able to identify the faces?
No. And the problem is, you go looking then. That's
exactly,
the problem. You go, and then the logical brain kicks in, which you don't want. So you've got to not do that, you know, which is the hard thing, because you want to know who they are or what they are, and sometimes she will see writing as well. So it's just different for everyone. She's probably more sensitive to things than I am. I'm not sensitive. No, it's just different.
That's just the way.
It's just different for everyone.
The way we're built.
But I always say to people, don't go looking, don't go forcing. Let it happen. It'll happen when it's meant to happen.
When I saw my third eye, I think I did 8 or 9 rounds of the breathing one day, and because I was feeling down. Being honest with you, I was feeling down beforehand, and I was lying there and I was doing it, and I just kept going. I just was feeling. I was like, this is amazing. I'm starting to feel. It was at very near the start, and I was lying there, and I remember reading a mindfulness book actually, and they were saying if you focus on your forehead and do breathing exercises, you could possibly see what resembles a third eye if you look up in your forehead. And it was like this feeling of joy came over me, and I was bawling my eyes out, completely bawling my eyes out in pure happiness. I couldn't believe it because that was a big step for me, because I was thinking, this is right. Like, it mightn't be just like I was thinking in December I might have just started feeling better anyway. It was Christmas, whatever.
Yes.
Maybe I was just, the Wim Hof was just a placebo. Yes. It's definitely not, because it changes your mood. Like, if you read Wim Hof's book, there's different. You can even do one round of the breathing, but just it's a mood regulator, so it focuses on your thoughts, and it's like, what's making you feel like this?
So one of the things that Wim works a lot with universities, and one at Wayne State University in the States, they put them into this machine. It's like an MRI machine. They put a suit on him where they could control the temperature. They wanted to see what was going on in the brain when he was doing his method. So they put him into the machine, told him to do his thing, and they found that he was activating parts of the brain that they thought we no longer had access to. So they say we only use 20% of our brain. I know people who use less. but he was activating, it's called the periaqueductal grey area. Try writing that down. But anyway, it's parts of the brain that make you feel good and suppress pain and anxiety. And that's what he's activating. Again, they thought we no longer had access to it. But with this type of training, like the cold showers, getting used to pain, because cold can be a pain, he's opened up these pathways to different parts of the brain.
That's it. And that's groundbreaking.
Yeah, it is.
And in fairness, this is only the start, because now that it's getting more traction, more people with different variety of illnesses, different mental illnesses or physical illnesses.
He's also the last study was people who have there's a word on it, I can't say it. It's basically arthritis of the spine, and they started practicing the Wim Hof method, and all the inflammation markers have dropped drastically.
Wow, that's
again
incredible.
Because doing the breathing, you produce this anti-inflammatory hormone called interleukin 10, and it reduces inflammation.
And funny enough, I was speaking earlier about the cannabinoids, and Wim Hof goes he was asked, what do you think of weed? And he said, weed is great, man, but get high on your own supply. And he's actually not wrong at all, because when you're doing the breathing exercises, you're releasing cannabinoids in your brain and through your body that is healing. It's healing your body, it's relaxing you. So you can get high on your own supply. Like, I don't drink. I haven't drank in 3 years. Yeah. And let's say I never wanted to drink, let's say, for the first 2 years, because I was just like, I don't want to drink. Yeah. And even with the Wim Hof method now, it's made me think, why would I drink? When I can wake up, do the breathing, be fresh, even before bed, do, let's say, a lukewarm shower, like half temperature, and that would make me sleep. Like, I have different techniques.
Routines, yeah.
And I think, why would I spend? I understand. I still go to the pub. I still have the crack. I love the crack, but it's just, I feel like a drink will end up causing more hassle than it's worth. You know, and it's
a poison.
It is a poison. Yeah, absolutely. And Ireland's very good at.
Yeah, I'm not saying I don't drink.
No.
But it is a poison to the body. But we're social animals. We like the pub. We need to talk. We need to chat, and that's where we do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm always trying to find ways of getting positive things to people to improve their life. That's why I opened the vape shop, to try give people a healthier alternative to cigarettes. That's why I sell CBD, to help people reduce inflammation. I don't make any claims. I don't claim to be anything. I just try to help. And John, what would you do to get the Wim Hof method out there? What would be your? I know it's everywhere, but in terms of like even the HSE or the government, like what would be? I know we're. Jesus, John's face now would tell a million pictures, and mine also. But it's something that if it's needed, if it's going to be big, if it's going to be adopted by everyone.
I think it's probably the beauty of the reason Wim has took off is because of the beauty of the internet and Instagram and stuff like that. And people love to see themselves in an ice bath and with a photograph. It's probably going to be from the ground up. And then eventually they'll have to have a look at it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to come from the top down. Yeah, I think it's a ground up movement.
Bottom up, yeah. That's a good way. That's a good way.
That's the way.
But
it
like
is.
most things,
and because it's free, nobody's going to make money out of it. So
that's the issue.
That's
actually one problem I encounter on a daily basis in here in my vape shop is the fact that there's a 23% VAT on my products, but on cigarettes there's hundreds of percentages of tax, and it's just unfortunate that people can't access something due to the fact that it doesn't make the bigger companies money. Yeah. It should be, unfortunately. Russell Brand covered this very well. It was the fact that everything's webbed in a layer of I suppose red tape and I suppose a system that's built on capitalism and built on people profiting from other people's.
Well, Wim is not selling a pill. If he was selling a pill, working with a pharmaceutical company,
he'd be the richest man in the world. Yeah,
the richest man, and this would be advertised all over the place. Yeah. He's not. He's a single man. Well, he's not. I don't mean a single. He's
one man.
His family's now involved as well.
Yeah,
and he's just like trying to self-promote it.
Yeah, exactly.
But he's doing a good job.
Very good job, because he doesn't come across too claimish or too out there. Everything's based on fact.
He works. He does not want to be called a quack. He wants to work with scientists, and those scientists are usually universities studying the body, not pharmaceutical scientists. And he's all his claims are backed scientifically, so they can never say he's a quack.
Yeah, that's why it's the revolution that it is, because it is all backed by science, as we keep saying. But we have to hammer it home, because a lot of people, I speak to people, and in fairness, they just don't know about the Wim Hof method, and they say to me, man, that's placebo, man. Okay, breathing, sure, we breathe all the time. Shout out to my cousin Adam. He was slagging me because I was saying, I'm doing my breathing now. He says we breathe all the time. I said we don't breathe right. That was my comeback at him, and he's actually started the Wim Hof now, and he's enjoying it. So
very good, and that's the way it's going to spread. Yeah. It's word of mouth, best way.
It is, and seeing other people benefit from it. Like I've been lucky enough, thank God, I'm next door to a barber's here. You wouldn't be able to tell by my hair, but because I haven't got a cut in a while. But Kate, who works in the barber, she spends a lot of time in the shop with me and having the crack and using our facilities, of course, and having the crack and whatnot. But she noticed a change in me. She said that in October last year I looked lost, and I just didn't see myself. And she said in the last few months, it's not that I've gotten cocky, it's not that I've gotten anything, it's just that I've found myself, and that I've become more relaxed and empathetical, more less worried about what's going to happen, and more in the moment. That's the big thing. The moment, sure, there's nothing else but this moment, really.
Yeah, and that's what the ice bath teaches. It's only about now. Yeah. It's only between you and the ice, and so you've got to make peace with the ice. Because
if you make peace with the ice, you make peace with yourself.
Exactly, that's the only way you do it. Yeah. So it's fascinating.
It is absolutely fascinating. It's one of the. It's probably the biggest life changing thing I've. That's why I've started a podcast, and the first podcast is with one of the men who helped me grow with the Wim Hof, and hopefully someday I'll join John as an instructor in a couple of years, and it'd be. I suppose that'd be some crack, wouldn't it? It'd be like Laurel and Hardy at the get in the bath. Go on.
Who's who though?
Yeah, who's who? Oh yeah, I see they're both equal to me. So.
They're both funny.
They're both funny. That's them. Just like us, John. Just like us. See, I'm recording this right now. This is my first podcast, and I'm recording it in the front of my shop. That's why there's a lovely echo you can hear. But the music should help with that a little bit.
Not the song.
Not
the song.
The music. The music.
Done.
Yeah, my brain automatically was like, not a song. Not a song.
Quick learn up.
Huh?
You're a quick learner.
I wouldn't say I'm slow, in fairness. But I'd actually like to. I mentioned the point earlier that I didn't kind of finish. It was the whole cigarettes 800% tax thing. The reason I was saying that is because vaping is. I see it every day. I've been doing this for 4.5 years, and I've had the shop for 3 years, and I see every day people changing. Their happiness, their lungs are happy. You know what I mean? Like after a week, their lungs are beginning to clear, they're beginning to taste again. They're getting lung checks, and it's great. Their lungs are clearing. The doctors are like, you've quit smoking, haven't you? And they're like, yeah. But if it's funny, if the customer mentions it to a specific doctor, or the wrong doctor, let's say, they start quoting American studies, such as when a crowd in Washington came out with a study that it causes formaldehyde to build up in the lungs, and you could get pneumonia, and that was completely incorrect, because what they did was basically a vape works by. I know I'm talking about the vape here. I'll be a minute, but it's a piece of metal. It's like a kettle. Think of the coil inside a kettle. You heat that up. There's cotton on the outside. You drip some liquid on it, and it evaporates. It vaporizes. That's what happens. Not evaporates, vaporizes. So, simple as that. But what they were doing was, you need the cotton to absorb the liquid to vaporize the liquid. But what they were doing was, they were putting liquid on top of a coil, on top of a metal Cantal or stainless steel coil, burning at 100 watts of power, where we normally burn it at, let's say, 10. And of course, there's going to be a build-up. And it's research like that it's being the likes of the HSE in Ireland back, instead of backing the NHS, which is some of the lowest. UK is some of the lowest smoking rates in Europe now. I won't mention Europe, but in the world, you could say, almost. Because you walk into an A&E there and you want to smoke a cigarette, they'll hand you a vape for free. E-Cig Wizard have set up 2 shops in hospitals over there. It's 95% safe at the Royal College of Physicians. The same people who discovered that cigarettes cause cancer are the same people saying it's 95, if not 97.2% safer. Wow. It's not. They found no evidence so far that it causes cancer. It's not carcinogenic. Nicotine itself as a substance, it's addictive, yes, but it's a similar compound to caffeine. It's like caffeine. You wouldn't smoke coffee beans, but you drink them. Mm-hmm. It's like we have nicotine as a raw substance. That's why Sweden has one of the lowest rates of smoking, because they snus. They've snuffed or snus orally and under the tongue on top of the lip, or on just a natural tobacco product that's not treated. But it's things like that if Ireland simply allowed alternatives to come in, I would happily open a vape shop in the Lourdes Hospital right now, and I'd give any profits I make to a mental health charity, just to show that it works, just to show that making a little change to the current system and saying that instead of smoking, use nicotine patches, which are the lowest efficacy rate of any apart from the inhalers. They're the worst form of quitting smoking. They're the lowest success rate. Really? Vaping in my shop, I calculated last year about 92% have fully quit. There's about 6% who, would smoke a good few and still vape a good few, and then there's a certain percentile that just hate the vape, and that's fair enough. Everyone hates people. Some people hate different things, but if I'm getting that much of a positive quit rate, and people I've known for 7 or 8 years vaping with no lung issues. I think it's time for the government to start doing more about it. And now with the end of the pandemic, with the mental health pandemic that's going to follow, unfortunately, I hate to say it, but it's pretty much fact at this stage that people, I know hundreds of people whose mental health has gone downhill. Why not start looking at different methods? Why not look about the portal where you can go on and you can book counselling, or else you can learn how to get in an ice bath. Simple. And people like John, people like Niall in Dublin, people like Wim Hof himself can all help in this push, can all push and plead and tag the government. If you're listening to this podcast, please send a tweet to Stephen Donnelly, Simon Harris, and just say, I've listened to, hopefully, to an interesting podcast. Have you heard of Wim Hof? And keep tagging them, because I'd feel like Stephen Donnelly or Simon Harris, Leo Varadkar, Michael Martin, once it's explained to them, obviously they're very busy with the pandemic, it could be something that is picked up fairly quickly, and there's plenty of research out there. And is there any countries in the world that it's big, it's like, it's not becoming a cultural thing, but it's becoming or any areas in which it's like getting mainstream, yeah?
No.
Nowhere.
Not that I'm aware of, no. It's just sad.
That is sad, but at the same time, it shows that if every person who listened to this podcast, or every person who's heard of the Wim Hof method, they tell one person, and
there's still a lot of people who haven't. It's still the vast majority haven't heard of the Wim Hof method. But I'm not aware of any country that's using it as part of all the studies are done by Wim's group himself. They did a small pilot study of people who suffer from fibromyalgia, which is huge, and again it's improved with doing the Wim Hof method. They're all small studies, no big organisation.
No backing, no financial, no huge financial backing, and I suppose that's the roadblock. That's the big roadblock. But if there is, if Jeff Bezos is listening to this, Jeff, we don't want money. We just want you to spread the good word. Try it. If you're listening, just fully in
and let it go.
Oh my God. But it's something that is all positive. Like, it really is.
Well, as we keep saying, it's simple. It's a simple technique if you do it right.
Yeah.
And it's free. Mm-hmm. And just try the thing. It's worth trying, and if it's for you and you feel benefits, you'll keep it up.
Yeah, exactly.
And so give it a go.
Like, my broken hip is almost as strong. I'd actually feel my left hip is stronger than my right hip because of the cold showers, because I focus. You can point it at different parts. If you have inflammation in your leg, or you have pain in your knee, you can either dip it in ice or take an ice bath, or else in the shower you just put it on the really, really fast. I put it on the really quick shower where it was like a waterfall, of course, and it's hitting my hip, and that cold it actually feels like it's heating it, and at the same time I'm controlling my breathing and focusing on my hip. So it's mindfulness. And
so Wim would say breath goes where thoughts go, and the Qigong masters would say Qi goes where thoughts go. It's the same thing. Yeah. So it's so if you have an injury, you concentrate on that injury and send a healing energy.
Exactly.
And that's what you do.
The first time I remember, I got his app and I was playing around, and there was one, and it was like you could point your mind in the direction of an area in your body in which you have pain, and you breathe to it, and then when you're in your retention, you're focusing on making sure that area is relaxed, completely relaxed. And you can actually feel it healing, because you're not thinking about it, because you're not constantly thinking about the negative side, the pain or the inflammation in it. You're like, that's fine, it'll heal, it'll do its thing. And I suppose it goes with cancer as well. I know a lot of people who have bet cancer but they haven't given up with a positive mindset, and having that reduces inflammation, because depression and anxiety, majority of it is inflammation. So if you can reduce that well,
they say all disease starts with inflammation. Yeah. So if you can reduce inflammation, it won't do you harm. It'll do you good.
Yeah.
And Dr. Bruce Lipton, if you've ever heard of him, he's got some great lectures on the power of thought and how it can heal. You change the chemistry at cellular level by how you think.
Yeah.
Which is, it's all the same thing, just different ways of doing the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it comes back to our point of having varieties of approaches. I call it my it's almost like my pirate's chest. I can go in and I can pick well, tonight I don't think I'll sleep that well, so I'll go into Headspace and I'll listen to, I'll be on Mars for 30 minutes and then I'll fall asleep, or else I wake up in the morning and I do, I'm not feeling the mouth today, I'll just do nose, or it's fantastic.
Well, I would say to people, if they wake up, try the Wim Hof, and if you wake up during the night, do nasal breathing Wim Hof, 40 breaths around. So the fact they actually count, because normally when you wake up during the night, it's because your head is spinning with some thoughts about something, and so if you start counting, it takes your mind off the thoughts, and then you also activate what's called the parasympathetic nervous system, which calms you down. And don't panic about waking up. Most people, oh God, look at the time. You've actually just got to stay relaxed, do the breathing, and you actually go back to sleep. And so, it has loads of uses. You can pump yourself up, or you can calm yourself down.
I play pool and snooker. I used to play competitively, and I was lucky enough to represent my country and whatnot. And one of my biggest problems was when I got on the black ball, my nerves constantly. I remember the first pool competition I played, I lost in the semi-final, which was a habit of mine, and I cried. I actually cried. I was like, why do I keep doing this? And it was this vicious cycle of winning frames, let's say being 5-0 down, come back to 5-all, and I'm like, yes, and then I'm like, oh no, it's going to happen again, I'm going to do it again. And if you think about something, it's going to happen. If you think negatively about something, it's probably more than likely going to happen. So I lost a lot of matches. Like I missed a black against England to get into the final of the World Championships. And it was nerves and of course too much pressure on myself. So now I started playing snooker again. I got laser eye surgery, so I have a completely different approach now. So I'm very interested to see how it goes. There's no tournaments because of COVID, but tournaments in the future, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hopefully be staying in the hotels, different tournaments, and I'll go to the gym in the morning, I'll do my Wim Hof, I'll do the breathing, I'll do the cold showers. If there's a bath in the room, don't worry, there'll be ice baths. But it's a mental sport, and the Wim Hof method is extremely beneficial for mental capacity, mental health. So if you're in any competitions, if you're studying for an exam, if you're doing various challenging things, try the breathing beforehand.
Well, my youngest son, when he was at uni, and he had to do he had to talk in front of the class, and he'd never done it before, and he was really scared. And I said, go into the bathroom before you go out and start doing some breathing exercises. Now, not particularly the Wim Hof breathing, but breathing in and making sure the exhale is longer than the inhale. Breathing in for 4 and out for 6.
Okay.
Do that for a period of time, and that exhale is what brings you down. As I said, it activates what's called the parasympathetic nervous system, which calms you down. So you make sure your exhale is longer than your inhale, and that calms you down.
That is
simple techniques. Simple, like it's all simple when you know how.
Exactly, and I feel every day I wish I knew about it years ago. But it's when you find it. That's it. And we're lucky now that it's spreading. We're very well, thank God. But it's just about getting more involved.
I remember what you mentioned there just brought back when my wife was sick and we were in Germany and she's getting the treatment, and I remember my brother texted me, and I text back, I don't know where it came. I says, where there's hope you fight, and when you fight there's hope. And that's
beautiful. And I think, folks, we are going to the part now on that note, because that was. Could you repeat that, John, one more time?
Where there's hope, you fight, and when you fight, there's hope.
That is That is a beautiful sentiment. Well, John, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
I enjoyed it. The first one.
The first one, yeah. It's been with the Irish Iceman, I call him. He's absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much, John. And we'll have John on very soon again.
Okay, no problem. I'll talk all night if you want.
Yeah, I could talk all night too.
The tea was lovely.
I'm glad that he was. And I'll give my review of the coffee green tea. It was different. It was exciting. It was a journey, and I loved every minute of it. So, thank you very much for listening to the podcast. Subscribe, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, and please spread the word about the Wim Hof method. It's been a pleasure. My name's Owen. That's John. We'll see you later.